So like I said, my name is Ebony Wade. I'm a lawyer with the Legal Aid Society of DC, and I work in the family law section. It's actually a little funny that I'm talking to you about being a lawyer because I haven't been one for very long. I graduated from law school at American University this May, and I took the July bar exam, which is the exam that everyone has to take, well, if you want to practice law in the state of Maryland. And I actually only found out my results 3 weeks ago, so I'm a very, very new lawyer. So I thought that because of that, because I still don't know exactly what it's like to be a lawyer for very long, I would talk more about how I got to this point, some of the choices and opportunities that I had in high school and in college and afterwards that led me to, I guess, to where I am now. So I mentioned a little bit about what I do. I work with domestic violence victims and who are low-income residents of DC who can't otherwise afford an attorney. So we provide free representation for them. I spend a lot of my time in court at hearings with them, with people who want to get civil, I guess, to get protection orders. And then I spend also a lot of time in the office doing research, building cases, trying to get evidence, trying to find witnesses, and just meeting with and talking with clients. And I'll talk about this a little more, but this isn't really anything that I had imagined myself doing when I started out. But I realized that, things I like to do, I like to work directly with people. I wanted to work in public service. I knew when I started law school I didn't want to work at a big law firm. You get paid really well and they have really great perks, but it's also much, long work days, and it's a lot of sitting in your office doing legal research, reviewing documents, and that wasn't what appealed to me when I thought about what kind of lawyer I wanted to be. But actually, when I was in high school, I didn't want to be a lawyer at all. When I was applying for college, I wanted to be a journalist, actually. My favorite class was English and journalism. I was the editor of my school paper, and my journalism teacher was like, "You should be a journalist." So I thought that that was something that I wanted to do. So when I was applying to college, I applied to colleges that had good journalism and communications programs. But really, I didn't really go into college applications with a good idea of what I wanted out of a college. I was just like, oh, I want to be a journalist, so I'll go to schools that have good journalism programs. And didn't really think about any other aspects of what I wanted out of a college. And because of where I was living at the time, I didn't have opportunities to go on campus visits or to go on tours or to talk to people who went to colleges I was interested in, which I think would put me at a disadvantage because all I knew was, oh, I want to do this, so I should go to schools that have these programs. And then I got the advice that if I wanted to be a journalist, what mattered wasn't so much an undergraduate major, but where I would get a master's degree in journalism. Because I guess when you apply for journalism jobs, that's what they're more interested in. Like you were saying, you can major in a lot of different things in undergrad that help you. You can major in English or history, and all of these things help improve your writing and help you become a more well-rounded person. So with that in mind, I looked more closely at the types of colleges I was interested in, like what sorts of activities they offered. I knew I wanted to do study abroad, so I looked at colleges that had study abroad programs, class size. I came from a small high school, and I realized that if I went to a school with 40,000 students, it would be really overwhelming for me. So I wanted to not go to a really small college because I wanted to meet, having come from a small high school, I wanted a more, I guess, a bigger college, but not something that would be overwhelming. And so I guess I think it's great that you're all in this program because it's something that I really wish that I had when I was in high school. Like I said, I had a high school guidance counselor, but he was busy with a lot of students, and we didn't get a whole lot of one-on-one time. And I had my parents who were telling me, oh, you should do this, but not people who would sit down with me and say, and think about what I was interested in, things that I'm good in, and find colleges that were good fits for me. So I would definitely encourage you to take advantage of programs like this. If you have high school counselors or any other mentors or friends who've been to colleges, get as much information as you possibly can. I know that you've also been on college tours, which I think is great. I think any resource that you can turn to is helpful in just getting as much information as possible about the types of colleges that you are considering going to. And also keep in mind that while you're getting a lot of advice, what may be a great school for one person might not be a great school for another person. You know, like you might talk to a friend who says, oh, I went to this college and it was great, but find out why it was so great for them, what exactly it was that they liked about college and that makes them so happy, because things that make one person happy are not necessarily the things that are right for you. And I guess my last bit of advice about college applications is not to be disappointed if you don't get into your first choice. I think that if you've thought through your college application process and the schools that you're applying to, chances are you'll be happy wherever you end up. There's a lot of ways to be happy at school, and I think that there's not one perfect college for everyone. I was lucky in that I did get into my top choice college for undergraduate, but when I applied to law school, I actually didn't. American wasn't my top choice. It was actually a school that I had applied to, so I knew I would go there if I had to, but it wasn't near the top of my list. So I was definitely a little disappointed when I realized that that was where I had to go. But as you know, I ended up enjoying it a lot and made friends, and it actually had the sort of programs that helped me find the job that I have now and end up where I am. So in the end, I feel lucky that I ended up going there, even though I wouldn't have necessarily chosen to go there if I had had my ideal world. So when I went to college, I ended up not going to a journalism school. I figured that I would just go to college that had more broader opportunities for me, and what you go in wanting to do will definitely change. I started out wanting to major in political science, which I actually did end up majoring in, but I changed about 10 times. At one point I wanted to be a doctor, but I realized I didn't like chemistry or physics, so I didn't. I thought about doing economics, and then I didn't like math, sorry. So it's just, college is the process of realization of like what you're good at, what you do enjoy doing, and then, I mean, obviously at some point you do have to pick a major, and it's something that you should take the time to think about, but by the time you get to that point in college, you will have a better idea, and it's not something that you have to stick with. And I think professors and counselors and advisors know that it's going to change, so there's nobody holding you to what you say you're going to do. But again, you know, take advantage of career centers at college. I was lucky we had individual advisors. You know, just all the same resources that you have now will still be important in college. For me, when I started school, I grew up in a small community. I was very sheltered. I had parents who were very strict about making sure I did my homework and, you know, studied and didn't stay out very late. And then I went to college in Chicago, which is a huge city. There's a ton to do, and there's nobody standing around saying, hey, you have to wake up and go to class, or you have to go do your homework. So for me, it was a huge difference, and while it was great, it was the first time that I had a lot of freedom. I could do whatever I want, but you also have to learn that you have to learn self-discipline, basically, and I admit that I was bad at it. You know, it is easy to blow off a class in the morning or to not do your homework because there's nobody who's waiting for you in your dorm room who's going to say, hey, I know you didn't go to class. And you know, your teachers and your professors and your counselors will try to look out for you, but it's not the same sort of situation that you have now, where you have a lot of people who are really, really looking over you. It's a lot of self-monitoring. And like Ms. Chang said, you know, you, as much as fun as college is, you do have to work on keeping your grades up. Like, that's why we all go go to college so we can get a degree. And that's important to keep in mind. While your GPA isn't going to be the end of the world, it is something that will always help you, whether it be applying for jobs, and definitely for grad school. You know, grad schools always want to know what your GPA was. So, you know, put as much effort as you can into that. Another thing that I regret missing out on was not making connections with professors and other mentors in college. When you apply for jobs, even when you apply for internships in college, you'll always need a reference for something. You'll need references for grad schools. You always need people who will write you recommendations. So the more you can get to know teachers, the more they get to know you. If you have internships or volunteer opportunities, make sure you get to know those people, because those will all be great resources for you. For a really long time, I didn't apply to law school for 4 years after college, and they still needed a college recommendation. So I was kind of stuck trying to find, you know, some professor who hopefully would remember me, you know, and not only remember me, but say nice things about me. So the more mentors and references you cultivate in college, the better off you will be, and you won't be stuck in that same situation. What else was it? Get involved in extracurricular activities. My thing was Mall United Nations, and I did that all through college, and that was something I could put on my resume. It's, you know, it's an extracurricular activity, but you can say I had a leadership position, I had to manage these things in my organization. And again, you know, when you're applying for jobs or applying for grad school or whatever you do after college, it's just another thing that you'll be able to talk about and say, an accomplishment that you'll be able to have. And also internships, definitely intern in college. I wish I had had more substantial internships, and it's also a great way to get a view of what career, you know, if you're interested in the law, then you can intern at a law firm. If you're interested in engineering, you know, you can intern at companies like that. If you're interested in medicine, you can work in a lab. It's a great way to get experience, and again, more things to put on your resume and be able to talk about when you do go out and apply for a job after college. But when I graduated from college, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. A lot of people had jobs, but a lot of people also didn't. Some of my friends were applying directly for grad school, for law school in particular, but I didn't really want to go straight through. After 4 years of studying, I was kind of tired of, you know, homework, studying, going to class, and I wanted to have a real job. And another big consideration for me was my student loans. I came out of college with a lot of student loans, and going into law school would mean accruing a lot more student loans, so I figured if I took a few years off, then at least I would be able to make a dent in that, or, you know, start building up savings and learn what it meant to manage my money. It was also very strange for me to graduate from college with no idea of what I wanted to do, because I thought surely that's kind of where I was when I graduated from high school, and it was weird to be in the same place all over again 4 years later, but with a degree. So I knew I wanted to work I had a political science degree. I wanted to work in international development. But I was in Chicago, which doesn't really have those sorts of jobs. So I moved to DC and had a temp job for a while in an international development agency. And then just kept applying for other jobs. And once I was in the city, it was a lot easier to meet people who were able to help me find a job. So eventually I got one, and I worked there for 4 years, which I think was a great experience. It was my first time being truly independent, you know, making my own money, having to manage my own finances, I had my first apartment, and also a lot of being responsible for myself, both at work and in my personal life. And then I worked at the American Bar Association, which is an association of lawyers, because at that point I had started thinking I would go to law school, but I didn't want to go right away. So I worked there for 4 years, and it was a great